Hybristophilia was defined an attraction towards people who commit crimes. This is seen frequently. In the 70s and 80s, serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, Ramirez, and even Charles Manson had a huge fan following. Even to this day, perpetuated by their documentaries on various OTT platforms, they still have a cult following. Dr. Jordan Peterson, in his various lectures, has talked about 5 professions which women inevitably are attracted to. These are your pirates, werewolves, vampires, surgeons, and billionaires. Now we can all agree all of these professions have some issues, and this attraction, this allure towards the dark sides of the human psyche is as eternal as the soul itself. However, with all the literature that can be found online these days, with all the documentaries, people are self-diagnosing themselves as having some kinds of personality disorders. How many times have you had a friend bail out on you and blame it on their mood swings or their bipolar disorder? How many times has a subordinate or a friend or a colleague not delivered on the deliverable and blamed it on their ADHD? How many times have you seen somebody justifying their selfish, arrogant behavior on the narcissistic personality tendency? These are all people who, through pop culture, through media, have been exposed to such disorders, and they self-diagnose themselves as having one. This is probably down to one of 2 things: to justify their bad behavior, or probably to feel unique, to feel different from the other people. This is not to say that these disorders don't exist, but self-diagnosing them is never a good idea. Along these lines, we are glad to be joined today by Dr. Chetan Vispute. He is a clinical psychiatrist from Mumbai, and he has got 14 years of extensive experience in this field. He will help us understand what these disorders are actually.
Today I have with me Dr. Chetan Vispute. He is a well-known psychiatrist from Vashi, Navi Mumbai. Thank you, Dr. We are going to discuss a very interesting topic, that is personality disorder.
Yes, so personality disorder, this is my area of interest, and rather I've also written a chapter in the UG textbook over it.
Okay.
And this is something which not only me but every mental health profession, including psychiatrists, psychologists, psychiatric social workers and others, will definitely encounter this problem every day. And almost most of the patients, they have certain traits, but when it comes to personality disorder, this is definitely important so far as the prognosis of a particular case is concerned. So it's an important area. A lot of myths and misconceptions are there. I guess we'll definitely throw some light on it.
Yes. Then according to you, medically, what constitutes a normal personality?
There are various definitions of personality. One, the personality is something which is a very complex biological phenomenon, and characteristics of a person which probably develops right from the childhood and takes a final shape when a person reaches youth and adolescent age. It is over a period of time, as the person experiences different kind of events in life, it shapes the personality of that individual. So personality is defined as a complex pattern of deeply embedded psychological characteristics that are expressed by an individual in all areas of psychological functioning. The word personality comes from the Latin word persona, which means mask, which was used in the play and the theatre. Character is something which is refers to the characteristics acquired during upbringing and nurturing. Temperament, as I have already said, temperament on the other hand refers to basic biological predisposition towards a particular behavior. Personality traits are overt and highlighted areas of personality, while personality disorders refer to maladaptive and dysfunctional personality traits leading to socio-occupational impairment and distress to an individual. Personality disorder is maladaptive functioning of this personality traits for very long time.
Doctor, when it comes to India, according to you, do you think that the cases or the awareness about it is much less as compared to Western countries? When we say in America, it is said that around 10% of the population, according to studies, they have some personality disorders, and there is a lot of awareness about it. But in India, do you think that the numbers might be much higher than actual?
Okay, so if we talk about personality disorders, the number varies. Like if we take into account addiction, in addiction 35 to 55% of those who are into severe addiction, they will have a personality disorder associated with it. The data about the Indian studies will vary as per the different types of personality disorders. Like we broadly classify personality disorder into cluster A, cluster B and cluster C. Cluster A are usually the people those who are a bit odd and eccentric, men or very country. Cluster B are melodramatic and emotional. Cluster C are very particular, obsessive, especially those who are into white collar job. So this is a broad classification. Clinically there are different types, but I have broadly described them. The percentage varies individually. So if we take into account whole, the variation is quite high. So it will be difficult to comment on the exact percentage. But yes, definitely when it comes to the clinical practice, the prevalence is quite high.
Doctor, now generally, please tell us more. You mentioned cluster A, cluster B, cluster C. So please tell us a bit more about these disorders.
So personality, when we talk about personality disorder, many people confuse this term with temperament as well. So temperament is a particular genetic predisposition to a particular behavior. When it comes to childhood, when a child is developing, we usually use the word temperament. Temperamentally ये थोड़ा सा hyper है, temperamentally ये शांत. So that is a genetic predisposition towards a particular behavior. When it comes to personality disorder, it is maladaptive pattern which is having certain set of characteristics. Like when it comes to cluster A, as I have said, these people are odd and eccentric. So here, in odd and eccentric, there are types: schizoid, schizotypal, paranoid. So usually these people, they try to remain aloof. They don't interact much with people. They are withdrawn into themselves. They usually have some oddities in their behavior. They are eccentric in their behavior, and social interaction is much less. Individually, every characteristic will be different. Like in paranoid behavior, the paranoia will be very high. They will have lack of trust. They cannot trust people easily. When it comes to schizotypal, odd eccentricness will be there. Schizoid again more or less the same, but bit of some compulsivities can be accompanied there. When we come to cluster B is melodrama, and this here we broadly classify them into borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, then your histrionic personality disorder, and your narcissistic personality disorder. So now many argue that probably whatever I am saying now, whatever we are discussing, it is becoming a norm. But why do we classify this as a disorder? Why do we call it? So I repeat again, when these are certain characteristics of the persona of that individual which becomes maladaptive and it interferes with the functioning, day-to-day functioning of that individual. So here in borderline we see a lot of rejection sensitivity, my way or highway kind of behavior. Things should go, and they are quite, they fall into multiple relationships, they have boredom, they get bored easily, boredom is quite high. Suicidal ideations are quite high, suicidal attempts are quite high when it comes to borderline personality disorder. When it comes to antisocial, these people are very callous in nature. They try to break, they like and they'll try to break the rules, and they'll not behave as per the social norms. They don't abide by the social norms, and more or less like a criminal behavior, we can say. But there are subtle behaviors also which distinguishes it from the criminal behavior. In narcissism, I am boss, I am right, whatever aham is quite high. And when it comes to your histrionicity, it is center of attraction. Person likes to be the center of attraction. In a situation when they are not a center of attraction, they get annoyed. Then the irritability, mood swings, impulsivity, this kind of behaviors are quite high. The last category that we saw is cluster C. Cluster C is anxious, dependent and compulsive. All the teachers, professors, virus Sahasrabuddhe of 3 idiots is the example which I always quote. Matlab, so particular about time, so particular about things that he is not even putting buttons on his shirt. He wears a velcro. He utilizes his nap to get his things done, the shaving and all that stuff. So these are usually this kind of people, they land up in this kind of professions also. Anxious, dependent, these are the types where probably उस व्यक्ति को पता है मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, क्या कर रही हूँ, ये सही है, पर unless and until there is a reassurance from the other side, they won't do it.
What role does nature have to play in it? Is it more of a genetic or nurture have to play a societal role?
So let it be any behavior. It's not only about the personality disorders. I think there are always 4 components which play a role. Genetic predisposition, definitely it plays a role. For borderline personality disorder, people, they are, as I've said, they are more likely to commit suicide. So suicidal tendencies are quite common there. Then somatization is quite common in the other cluster B personality traits. Here, nurture, not necessary. There are studies. Studies were done in twins. So दोनों बच्चों में से कैसा उनका डेवलपमेंट हुआ when they have got same genetic parents and same environment in the house. So nurture, nature, definitely they play a role, but it was found that two people, those who are born from same parents, those who are twins, so genetically they are same, still they have a different pathway of development. So here what a person acquires, what are the acquisition skills and what are the perpetuation skills. When they are growing in their life, what kind of events happen, what kind of life experiences these people will have, and how they perpetuate when similar difficulties or life events happen. Nowadays, I see most of the youngsters, they say, my parents are strict with me, I'm traumatized, this thing happened, I'm traumatized. So, this is the point that I like to highlight. See, trauma will not only make a weaker person out of you, trauma can definitely make a better person out of you, and that depends on your perspective. Right. And your perspective is something which is temperamentally, you say, it can be determined by the genetics, or it can be developed with the help of nature, and what kind of life experiences a person will have or has to do.
Just in 2016 we had a Juvenile Justice Act where children like from 16 to 18 years of age, if they commit some severe heinous crimes, they will be tried as adults. Now it has been seen in many of these, they have certain disorders. It can be psychopathy or narcissism. Is there a way to actually predict an adolescents that they might have this disorder, or does it strengthen or crystallize these disorders, crystallize in adolescence itself?
It is difficult to say because personality, as I said, it takes shape based on the life experiences that person has and how a person perpetuates a similar kind of behavior. One. Second, personality formation takes place in a very complex manner, and usually it's stabilized. It's a dynamic process till a person reaches 18 to 20 years of age. Once the person enters this age group of 18 to 20, then the personality traits, they stabilize, and after that we can comment. There are certain markers which can be of help. One is if there is a childhood ADHD symptoms. The studies have said that if a person has childhood ADHD, if the ADHD is not treated with the help of medication, occupational therapy and the other treatments, the likelihood of development of severe psychiatric disorders or even personality disorders or addictive substance use disorder is quite high. So this can be one of the parameters that I can think of now. The other is family history of any psychiatric illness in the parents, family history of any diagnosed personality disorder in the parents, immediate relative, first degree relative I mean to say. This can be one of the ultra high risk markers. Presence of mood disorder in close relative, this is another factor which I feel is important. When it comes to blood tests or tests, there are no blood tests here, there is no neuroimaging here, MRI brain kar liya, pata chalega nahi. There are certain personality assessment tests. These are different from the ones which are used in recruitments. So personality assessment test can be given. The most commonly which psychiatrists do in our city here is MCMI, then MACI. These are Millen's personality test. One is for adolescents, the other is for about the 18 age. So this gives us an idea not only about personality disorder but also gives us an idea about the severe psychiatric disorders like depression, thought disorders, psychosis, OCD, if any. Once we get an idea about this mood disorders and all. One more thing that I would like to highlight is personality disorder and depression can coexist. Multiple diagnoses in psychiatry can coexist and the diagnosis in psychiatry can change. Most of them are treatable and there is a lot of hesitation in taking medication, but if a medication is used in a right dose for a right indication under right supervision for a right duration, I guess most of the cases respond well, because these medications are not addictive. Medications are meant for betterment of a human being, and if we don't prescribe the pharmacotherapy, definitely I don't deny the role of other non-pharmacological treatments. I definitely do others also, but pharmacotherapy is an important pillar in the treatment of psychiatric disorders and in certain personality disorders also, where we don't target personality disorders per se. What we target is a particular behavior or symptom. Let's say impulsivity in borderline personality disorder. We have certain medication which can decrease impulsivity, so that can smoothen the behavior and a person can be more adaptive than maladaptive. Let us say a person is depressed or more anxious. There is a certain medication which can be given in cluster C personality, in cluster C or cluster A, which can help in that particular aspect. I don't say there is a medication is the treatment for, but when we target these particular areas, it can be of great help, which when combined with therapy, that is the counseling techniques, and which when given over a prolonged period of time. The duration of treatment is again a big thing. People say, doctor sahab, humko dawai de do, maybe a month or two, it will be fine. No. A person has to take treatment for a longer period of time. Usually the treatment go on for 3 years, 5 years, and personality disorder, it can sometimes go on for life also. But the whole purpose is we have to take care of the socio-occupational impairment. If a person who is non-functional becomes functional, is back into the stream of society, is well accepted by his family members, stays away from other psychiatric disorder, yes, definitely, because a person having personality disorder will be more predisposed to other severe disorders. So when we look at it comprehensively and when we give it over a longer period of time, it definitely helps.
Going back to that question of the juvenile justice system, the criminal justice system, do you advise that rather than just going for a punishment or putting them in some house or isolating, do you think that giving them counseling and psychiatric facility, a reformative approach is better?
It is not only the role of reformation we have to look into. Like usually when people commit this kind of heinous crimes, most of the times whether they are under an influence of addictive substance, like we have read it in newspaper when the people, or we have even seen it in the famous cases, I would not like to quote them here, where definitely some sort of addictive substance was found there. So a reformative approach, if you ask personally, yes, can be of certain help. There is also a debate where if we can cut down the age where the trial But again, that I think a lawyer will be a better person. If we treat the psychiatric disorders if present along with that personality disorders, we can prevent some future major psychiatric disturbances and make that person more functional.
Doctor, is there a link between gender and the personality disorders? Are females or maybe those people who are having gender disorders, they are not able to identify which particular gender they belong to? Are they more prone or do they have comorbidity or signs of personality disorders?
Not necessarily. Even in day-to-day life, when we work in our offices, when we work in our hospitals, we do identify people, those who are having personality traits. So again, I would like to make it clear, just labeling a person on some personality traits is a different thing altogether. But if the behavior is maladaptive, it is causing socio-occupational impairment, or it is causing problems in the relationship, yes, that has to be treated. Gender dysphoria, again, it's a different topic altogether. As I said, multiple diagnoses can coexist. So yes, gender dysphoria can coexist with depression, it can coexist with personality disorder, or isolated personality disorder can also be there. And there are many examples that we see in our clinical practice.
Similarly, when we talk about certain developmental disorders, like one of them you mentioned, the ADHD. Similarly, there might be children who are having certain disabilities. Is there a more chance for them to develop certain disorders, personality disorders?
Like most of the disorders that we have in psychiatry, schizophrenia, ADHD, autism, they are supposed to be neurodevelopmental in nature nowadays. So ADHD has a good predisposition to develop not only personality disorder, but to also develop schizophrenia, substance use disorder. Conduct traits, externalizing traits that we call, where they have defined behaviors where they don't abide by the rules, they frequently like to break the rules. So conduct disorder in childhood or adolescent age group, again that or externalizing trait that we classify as is more likely to develop. Not only psychiatric disorders but also many other difficulty in other areas of life.
Don't you think that if we label a person as having certain personality, they are already facing certain...
Sometimes if a person asks me for a diagnosis, I have to give it. Usually, we have to treat a condition and we have to make an individual more functional. Let it be a diagnosis of schizophrenia, let it be a diagnosis of borderline. The focus all over the world, as per the newer classification systems in psychiatry, is to make an individual more functional. In today's era, we cannot afford, especially in a metro city like घर में कोई व्यक्ति बैठा हुआ है and he is not functional. So functionality is our goal. Treatment of individual targets with medication and treatment of psychological targets and medicine targets are different. Identifying this area, then treatment will help that person become more functional. To label or not to label, that is again an area of debate. But again, that a client should definitely discuss with the respective psychiatrist and doctor regarding the label. Many companies are now, I feel now they are in a better position, and I definitely acknowledge their efforts that they are accepting. No longer there is a stigma associated with it. They are helping their clients, those who are having not only personality disorder but any other psychiatric disorder. They are accepting the diagnosis, they are at times sponsoring their treatments. People are advised to go to rehab or psychiatric hospitals. The companies are appointing counselors, psychiatrists. Companies are regularly conducting some wellness programs, focusing on the improvement of the behavior and the soft skills. So the approach and attitude so far, I think over last few years, is definitely welcoming. They are changing it. And youngsters, the next generation, Gen Z, I think they are quite open about discussion, and newer, even the insurance companies are issuing policies now. So treatments are available under the insurance, so people are happy to take treatment, and even the counseling therapy sessions are covered by the insurance policies as of now. So there is a change in the approach, outlook towards psychological disorders, personality disorders, as well as the stigma is now decreasing. Awareness about my condition. If I am having a fever, I can feel it.
Yes.
If I get a fracture, I can definitely feel the pain. But when it comes to psychological disorders and personality disorder, so definitely they never feel that something is wrong with me. Usually others around them feel that they definitely. So developing this insight is a major challenge. All our efforts, all our training in psychiatry is directed towards developing this insight so a person continues to stay in the treatment. Here the major challenge again is when we tell them that this requires a comprehensive approach. There are certain clients those who say, I don't believe in this talk therapy. Doc, you prescribe me some medication, I take it. We have to tell them this is something where a comprehensive approach is required and we have to accept both. So here I take this opportunity on this platform to tell that yes, psychiatrists are not only here to prescribe medication, yes, they are also here to help you out through the therapy approach, talk therapy sessions, and both are equally important. I don't deny the role of non-pharmacological management, and usually we work in teams here in my center also. We are working with a team of say pharmacists, clinical psychologists, remedial education, occupational therapists and psychiatrists. So usually it's a team approach, and developing this team is a challenge. Accepting the treatment in the form of a comprehensive holistic team approach is a major challenge, and there are financial difficulties also. Other challenge that I feel is Indian patients, they believe in chamatkar. I don't want to generalize them, but they want quick results. So treatment when it comes to rehabilitation, it's almost equivalent to rehabilitation, whatever we are doing. So here the treatment results are slow, gradual. We have to put in consistent efforts. So people and usually people fall prey to some quick fix advertisement, and there they land up in spending a lot of money, and when they are exhausted, then they usually land up here. Another people, religion, faith healers, definitely they play an important role. So if you can sensitize the faith healers, you can take them in confidence. Definitely in collaboration with the faith healers also, as a doctor, as a therapist, we can do good jobs, because people usually follow spiritual government also they follow. So I think, and there have been certain studies which say that as a doctor we should never negate. But yes, if we are inclusive in the treatment, my goal is betterment of that individual.
Yes.
So let us, we have to include most of the people. But yes, again and again I emphasize, the pharmacotherapy is it's an important pillar here in the treatment.
You spoke that the behavioral traits that of a particular person who is having a certain personality disorder, we can see changes or the conduct. They would like to break the rules or the norms of society. But when we speak of society, culture comes into play. Something which is culturally acceptable in the West, that behavior may not be acceptable in India. And there are many therapists who might say that this person, maybe he has this disorder, has done this particular, for example, who break their relationships or to go for the instrumental affair. Someone might say he's a borderline personality. So is it that easy maybe to trivialize the issue? Is it a cultural thing? Or definitely it is because of the disorder? Some people might just use it, they might say that, no, I have a disorder, so I am allowed to do anything.
Other aspect is cultural factors do play a role. Certain things, like we are more of a patriarchal family, so this patriarchal behaviors are definitely normalized here. As you said, relationships, people part ways easily and they don't hold on to the grudges, and that is quite common in the divorce rates are quite common. But as I have said, it is not only we cannot label an individual. There are certain characteristics. There are definitive diagnostic criteria which are given in the classificatory systems in the psychiatry, and there are certain tests. So after serial interviews, serial mental status examination, serial psychometric test and therapy sessions, we come to a judgment or we come to a diagnosis. Many times we have also seen a person having narcissistic quality from cluster B and obsessive quality from cluster C. So for the sake of book or for the sake of classification, things are different. In real life, things can overlap, and when things overlap, it is like a surgeon dissects every organ in the body. As a psychiatrist, I have to dissect those symptoms. I have to identify the target area. I have to treat it accordingly.
The brain of certain people with these disorders, when we do maybe like an MRI, do you think that there are certain areas would light up and do you think it's possible that?
A lot of research is going on and nothing, so far as my knowledge is concerned, nothing conclusive is there. Yes, which can be applied on population as a diagnostic test. Things are, there is a MRI known as functional MRI, where in this functional MRI definitely, as you said, some things light up, you see all those images with red, blue, orange colors, but nothing is as of definitive now so far as personality disorder is concerned, because all of these disorders are multifactorial. Biological factors, psychological factors, social factors, and the complex interplay of all these things play a role. And when it is so complex, it is difficult to decide. When it comes to say diabetes, here things are easier. You have a physical parameter which is beyond the range, and then there are standard guidelines given by the respective association, and you correlate those guidelines with the clinical symptoms and you prescribe a medicine. So here, so far as the diagnosis is concerned, we have to rely on the psychometric test as a corroborative testing. Corroborative means it's a supportive testing, and most of the diagnoses are done clinically after prolonged interviews, after 2-3 sessions, and that's why it is difficult to diagnose a particular personality disorder only based on functional MRI or any other biological test. Certain markers have been identified, like in the body fluids, the metabolites of serotonin levels are high. Those who are having suicidal behavior, like in borderline personality disorder, those who have a lot of aggression, the testosterone levels are or the cortisol levels may be deranged in those cases. But it is not definitive. We cannot give a quantitative range. Most of the things here in psychiatry are qualitative. We assess the quality of that individual, quality of the characteristics.
They call it as dimensional and categorical approach. Do you believe that these models need?
Now, initially, the focus was more on diagnosis and categorization. Now it is more of a spectrum and focus on the functionality, focus on the activities of daily living. So, with the need of time, as the research will guide us, new guidelines are definitely coming. But as of now, the current classificatory system definitely helps us. But when it comes to clinical practice, what we identify, as I said, there is a constant overlap. So it is better to identify the targets in the form of symptoms, and it is better to classify them. This will respond probably to medicines, this will respond to the counseling, and let the person who is taking help, seeking help, let him or her choose it. Because that, if we give this cafeteria approach to the person, definitely the acceptance of the treatment and the outcomes of the treatment are going to be better. If I am authoritative, probably the person might just refuse it.
For this wonderful discussion, there were a lot of misconceptions. We used to take these terms as a very in general, but you have thrown a very good light on this. Thank you so much, Dr.
Pleasure. I'm glad to be part of this platform, and I wish you good luck for all your future sessions.
Thank you so much.